Hey everybody, it's Matthew, and this video is going to be on the escalation addendum. So the escalation addendum is not a required document. It is a document that is created for the benefit of your buyer, generally speaking, in a known or potential multiple offer situation. And so our intent here is to give the buyer the opportunity to be heard, to say, we're going to make an offer. This is our preferred terms, but we don't want to lose out to anybody else. We want to make sure we get a second at bat, so to speak. Now, understand that there should be a discussion with your buyer to inform the buyer that this may not be their best option. This may actually work against them. They are essentially playing poker, but laying all their cards down on the table for everyone to see and still hoping to have the best hand. For the seller, they need to understand that this document is, well, limiting. It has very specific things in which they have to consider if they're going to trigger a higher, better offer, but it is a benefit to them. It does show them there is an intent from a buyer here. Before I even get into the document, I will say this, that as buyer agents, I don't know that this is the best document to use unless you truly think the listing agent isn't going to give you a second round. And I think we need to also establish that the listing agent or the seller has no obligation to give you a second at bat or opportunity. You make your best offer. The buyer should understand that that's the best offer. And if the seller gets multiple offers, they can just go with whatever one they have. They don't have to come back and go, is this your highest and best? Can you do better terms? Let's try to negotiate. They can clearly see one is better than the other. Somebody made a better effort. And there's a lot of psychology to that. So if you are considering an escalation addendum, I would pause. I would have a conversation with the buyer to say, maybe we should just put our best terms out there. Maybe we should just offer the most we can, understanding that once you've done this, either escalation or put the best terms out, that's the seller's new expectation. I will say also that as a listing agent, if I receive an escalation addendum, my first instinct is to simply cross through it, ignore it, go to the offer to purchase, put the highest price in which the buyer may have entered into this document, and then submit that back as a counter. Because I know psychologically a buyer who has said, I will arrive at this number, is already made up their mind to do so. So countering at that number and taking out all the escalation details cleans it all up and makes it easier. I think it's also important to point out before we do this that I have heard a number of agents and brokers who have made the statement that they don't even present escalation addendums to their sellers because it confuses them or it doesn't seem fair to other buyers, etc. You and I have no right to withhold any document. Anything that's in writing and any terms we know, even if not in writing, we are required by law and the code of ethics to deliver to our seller and let them make the decision what they do with it. I cannot hold back certain elements of an offer because I fundamentally don't agree with the morality of them or the causation of them. So with those premises, I think we go in now to the document and understand that it's a risk to the buyer and a benefit to the seller most of the time. So we start off with the beginning of it. These are the fill in the blank things. And as always, if there's a fill in the blank, that triggers a dynamic. There is something that's not standard here. So we have to consider what our situation is and make a decision. And here's what the buyer's agreeing to. That during negotiations and prior to another offer being ratified, the seller may get multiple offers. And this actually specifies bona fide offers. Once upon a time, believe it or not, there were agents who were manufacturing fake offers as listing agents to trigger escalations and get the buyer to pay more money. That's ridiculous and silly and of course improper. So the offer has to be bona fide and it has to be something reasonable that the seller would have agreed to. And if those conditions are met, they also need, the third condition is that it needs to have a greater net, not a gross, but a net. So if I've offered you a $100,000 offer and I've asked for $10,000 back in closing costs, that's a 90% to the seller. If you have the other extreme where I've offered you $110,000, but I want $10,000 back and your asking price is $100,000, then you get $100,000, and so you've netted more, $10,000 more. And so some people will try to roll their closing cost in by escalating their costs and all the rest. So you have to do the math and find out after concessions from the seller, what is the seller actually going to realize? What's the maximum they're going to? So once those conditions are met, once the net is established that our second offer is going to be greater than in the net than the other offers. Again, we're only dealing with offers, not ratified contract. We will agree to go higher. So we, the buyer, say, okay, we'll go in increments of, and you can put whatever you want in here, $1,000. Again, let's assume their asking price is $100,000, and I am offering 98. I don't know, something like that. I'm going to put in here that I will go $100,000 over any other best net, not gross, net offer up to, I'm capping out at 105. So if you get another net and it's 106, good on you, I'm out. And so we will say, again, any other offers, and notice that other and offers are capitalized because we have defined here what other offers actually are. And so this is going to be the net to seller, not to exceed 105. The other offers include escalation terms. So if the other offers are also escalating, we are going to stick with what our maximum number is over net with any other addendum. So that's it, right? We're not going to compete, and we're not going to find other terms. It'll simply be on money. This isn't necessarily on better terms. That can always be negotiated, but that's not what triggers this. If we are the winning contract, will we either A, waive our appraisal valuation, or B, we're going to retain our appraisal. And almost always you're going to retain your appraisal. Option 1 will be good for cash offers. It'll be good for conventional that permit this. Now, understanding that VA does permit the buyer to pay more than what the appraised value is. That is a key element of the VA. It's one of the unique qualities of it. But VA does not allow you to waive the appraisal, right? It's not something that you can go without. It just means you can pay over it. You still need to get the appraisal done. And then again, option B, easy one, is we're going to keep the appraisal and everything stays the same. Then here's the trigger that the seller is going to counter back at. So let's say that you've put in there that I'll go $1,000 over the best net of any other offer, capping out at 105. And the best net that they can produce, and they have to show you evidence of this, is 103. Then that means you're now at 104. And so what they're going to do is show you their offer and say, okay, we're going to put you at 104. That's going to be our new sales price. Here's the purchaser's name, Mr. Smith. This is the date that offer came in. Here's the other agent, other agent firms. Here's the other agent's name. Here's the sales price that they've offered. So they've offered 103 with no concessions. That means our net is 103. And when you do the math, that shows you that we're kicking you to 104 because of what you put up here in the first paragraph. Now, if they send back this, now notice that the seller shall provide the purchaser a complete copy of the other offer. So they have to give you the entirety of it so you can peruse it and make sure there's no other conditions or concessions or anything else that weren't disclosed to push this number up. And then once you both have agreed that this escalation has been triggered, there is a call for you to go back to page 1 of the core contract and the finance paragraph, strike through whatever terms you had put and put the new terms in there to make sure that that contract is all done. So all these terms are binding. You go back to the price and specify financing to do this. And there's a disclosure to everybody. No one did this out of coercion. They did this because this was what they wanted to do. So your buyers can't go back and say, my buyer agent did that. I don't know why, which they do, and it's silly. So that's it. It's a pretty simple form. The concept's pretty simple. The negotiation's a little trickier. But a couple triggers here. Make sure it's net. Make sure you have specified what they make sure your client's qualified and willing to do that. And make sure your buyer knows that more likely they're going to pay whatever they put in this area here at the 105. And that's it. So if you have any questions, reach out to your brokers. We'd be happy to sit down and chat with you about it. Thanks.